Hello, my dear students. A very warm welcome to the another session of syllabus discussion series. In earlier lecture, we have discussed the unit number first, the diversity in the living world, and in this lecture, we will be discussing about the second unit, that is structural organization in plants and animals. So I hope you have enjoyed the video first lecture, that is the unit number first, diversity in the living world, and in this second unit we will be dealing about the structural organization both in what plants as well as animals. So this unit is divided into total 3 chapters. Chapter number 5. Earlier that we have seen that unit number 4 unit number first, there are 4 chapters, and this unit number second is having 3 chapters, chapter number 5, chapter number 6 and chapter number 7. Chapter number 5 is about the morphology of flowering plants. Morphology of flowering plants. Chapter number 6 is about anatomy of flowering plants. 5th is about morphology. 6th chapter is about the anatomy of the flowering plants, and the chapter number 7, it is the structural organization in animals. You can see that these both chapters deals with the plants. One chapter is there which deals with the morphology, and another chapter deals with the anatomy, whereas this chapter number 7, it is totally related with the animal. So let us discuss the chapter number 5. The chapter number 5 is about the morphology of flowering plants. So what is morphology? Morphology is the study of external characteristics, the characters which we can see by our eyes externally. Okay, externally, you are seeing me, I am seeing you. Okay, so the external features which looks from outside, the external features are called as morphological features, and the study of that morphological feature is called as morphology. Morphos means external features, external character. Logos means what? Study. So morphology of flowering plants, it consists of the study of external features. If you see the plant, you will find different morphological features or external features, or the you can say structures of the plant. Which structures you study, which structure you observe first? There are around 9 points which needs to be discussed in detail. It will be a very long chapter, but the very interesting chapter. It is totally dedicated to the morphology or external studies, external characters, study of external characters. Okay. So first one is your root. Root means what? It is generally present below the side, but it is not necessarily that it should present below the side, but generally it is present below the side. So what is root? It is an extension of radicle. What are the different types of roots? Okay, what are primary roots, what are secondary roots, what is taproot system, what is adventitious or fibrous root systems. Okay, that will be discussed. Then what are the different modifications of the roots? Okay, there are different modifications. For storage purpose is there, for breathing purpose is there. So that thing will be discussed in the root. Second is your stem. So what is stem? It is the ascending axis of the plant body. It is the ascending axis. Okay, it is going in the ascending direction, upward direction, which bears different types of branches, flowers, fruits, leaves. Okay, so these are the stem. So what are nodes, what are internodes, what are the different modifications of the stems? Thorn is there. Then modification for storage. You can imagine. What is potato? Potato is a kind of a stem. It is not a root. Okay. Even though it is present below the soil, it is a stem. So such interesting facts will be there in the second part of the stem, that is the second part of the plant, that is the stem. Then what is leaf? What is leaf venation? What are the different types? Like reticulate venation, like the parallel venation. Venation means what? Arrangement of veins on the leaves. Leaves on the leaves, there are different veins which are arranged in a particular manner. That arrangement is called as venation. So there are primarily two different types of venations, like parallel venation, like reticulate venation. So what are the different types of leaves? What is simple leaf? What is compound leaf? In compound, unipinnately compound, the bipinnately compound. Okay. So palmately compound is another type. So these are the different types of leaves. So that will be studied in this topic, that is the leaf. Next is your inflorescence. So what is inflorescence? You may find a flower, a plant with a flower, or a bunch of flower, a group of flower. So what is inflorescence? Inflorescence is a cluster of flower. It is a group of flower, okay, where the different flowers are arranged in the group or a cluster. That is called as the inflorescence. Then after that, that will be studied. Different types of inflorescence are there. What is racemose inflorescence? What is cymose inflorescence? Okay, racemose, cymose, or even the special types of inflorescence are there. How the flowers are arranged on the a particular axis, that called as the peduncle, that is the inflorescence axis. So don't bother about these words. These are only for your understanding. These are only for the overview purpose. We will be studying. We will study all these concepts in much depth or deeper level, and even from the MCQ point of view also, what type of questions can be formed from a particular topic, that will also be discussed. So that will be a very interesting sessions, interesting lecture series. Then what is flower? It is the modified shoot which is specially designed for the sexual reproduction. For us, flower is a part of a beauty. We see the flower and see, wow, what a beautiful flower it is. But from the plant perspective, it is the primary organ of the reproduction. जो होता है वो primarily it is because of the flowers. Okay. So what are the different flowers, types of flower? Then what are the different so you can say what is actinomorphic flower, zygomorphic flower. The symmetry of flower is that is the symmetry of the flower. Then parts of the typical flower. What is calyx? What is corolla? What is androecium? What is gynoecium? So all this stuff will be discussed in the topic of the flower. Then what is fruit? What is fruit? Fruit is nothing but the fertilized ovary. So in this flower, what we will be dealing that detailed structure of a typical flower, which consists of even the I told you that calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium, the different parts of each and every floral part or floral whole, we can say. Don't bother about the words. We will discuss all this stuff in detail. Then what is seed? What is fruit? We discussed. What is seed? It is the fertilized ovule. What type of seeds are there? Okay, hexaluminescent, aluminescent, monocot seed, dicot seeds. Okay, so that will be discussed. Then after that, semi-technical discussion of a typical flowering plants. So in that, floral formula is there, which is used to represent a particular plant. So that will be studied in this point, that is a semi-technical description. Then after that, in 5.9, description of some important plant families. In that, you will be studying three families. Family first, Fabaceae family. All the legumes or pulses comes under this family, that is the Fabaceae family. Okay. So second family is your Solanaceae family, your potato, brinjal, okay, etc. The tobacco, that comes under the family Solanaceae. So what are the different characteristic features of this family? That will be studied in the this Solanaceae family. Then third one is your Liliaceae family, aloe is there. So these are, there are three different families you will learn in this chapter. So I hope you have got the quick, it is not in detail, but you have got the quick overview of the chapter number 5, that is the morphology of flowering plants. So chapter number 6, coming towards the chapter number 6, chapter number 6 is about the anatomy. Okay, likewise here morphology means what? External features. Okay, external characteristics, external, whereas anatomy deals with that of the internal characteristics. Okay, internal, how the plant looks from within. Okay, within, inside, at a tissue level, at a cell level, how the plant looks, that is called as the anatomy. Okay, the branch which studies that is called as the anatomy. So what is morphology? Is the external feature, anatomy is your internal features or study of internal structures. So same is there. Here we have studied all the external features, external characteristics. Here we'll study the internal features. So in that there are 4 different points. First one is what is tissue. So you know that tissue is what? Tissue is the group of cell having similar structure, function and origin. Okay, so that is the definition of tissue. So cell, cell is the basic unit of living organism and a group of cell forms the tissue. So there are different types of tissue in plants. Basically these are the meristematic tissue and the permanent tissue. What are the different types of tissue? Meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. What is meristematic and what is permanent? So you can say meristematic means what? Meristematic tissues are the tissue, the cells of that tissue are in continuous state of the cell division. वो continuously cell divide होते रहते हैं, इसकी वजह से उनको कहा जाता है meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissues are the tissues which are in continuous state of cell division. Continuously it continue to divide again and again. Whereas the permanent tissue are the tissues or the cells of that tissues have lost the property of cell division. Then again these permanent tissues are of 2 different types: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. So what are the different types of simple? Again you will study the parenchyma, sclerenchyma and collenchyma. These are the simple permanent tissue, whereas the complex permanent tissues are xylem and phloem. You might have heard this word, water conducting tissue and food conducting tissue. So what is xylem? It is the water conducting tissue. What is phloem? It is the food conducting tissue. So these tissues will be dealt in the detail. So what are the different components of the xylem tissue, like tracheids, vessel, xylem fiber and xylem parenchyma. In phloem we have sieve tube, sieve cell, companion cell, phloem fiber and phloem parenchyma. These are some of the components. These are the components of the xylem and phloem respectively. So that will be studied in this tissue. Then tissue system. What are the different types of tissue system? There is a epidermal tissue system. There are 3 different types. Epidermal tissue system is there. Then there is a ground tissue system and another is vascular tissue system. So that will be studied in detail. Then we will study the anatomy of what? Two kinds of plants, that is the dicotyledonous plants and monocotyledonous plants. So what are dicots, what are monocots, that will we have to study first. Then dicot, how the structure, when we take TS, that is called as transverse section. To study anatomy we have to take the TS preferably. So what type of structure is there in the anatomy, or the internally which type of structures are there? Like you are having epidermis, hypodermis is there, cortex is there, endodermis is there, pericycle is there. Okay, then vascular tissues like xylem and phloem, pith is there. So these are, don't bother about the words, we will discuss all this topic in detail. So for a time being, just remember what you will going to study in this dicot and monocotyledonous plants anatomy. Okay, and lastly, what is secondary growth? So secondary growth is about, you can see that some plants grow very tall in height, or you can observe a maize plant which is erect, but the stem size is very girth of the stem is very small. But at the same time, if you take a tamarind tree, it is very big. A ficus tree, it is very big. Why it is so? It is because of the secondary growth. The lateral growth is called as secondary growth. How it happens? Which tissue is important for that? The tissue's name is cambium. So what is cambium? That will be studied in the chapter. That will be studied in the secondary growth. So that chapter number 5 deals with the morphology of the flowering plant. Chapter number 6 it deals with the anatomy of the flowering plants, and chapter number 7 it deals with the animals only. 5 and 6 chapters, they are the chapters pertaining to the plants, but this 7th chapter is for the we have to study the animals, okay, in this chapter. So what is the name of this chapter? Structural organization in animals. Structural organization in animals. So here we have to study, likewise we have seen here the plant tissues. Here we have to study the animal tissues. Animal tissues are what? Epithelial tissues are there, connective tissues are there. Epithelial tissues are there, connective tissues are there, muscular tissues are there, and neural tissues are there. There are 4 different types of tissues. Their structure will be studied in very detail. Then these tissues will form the organs, and organ system will get formed from these organs. That will be studied in detail, and at last we will be dealing with the detailed structures of 3 organisms. That is, first one is your earthworm, second one is your cockroach, and third one is your frog. Okay, there are 3 different actually there are only 5 points I have written here by mistake. It should be 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so it is like this. So here the detailed morphology and anatomy of this earthworm, you know that earthworm, what is it is a very famous, these are all famous organisms, you all know this. The detailed study of this earthworm, cockroach and frog will be done in this chapter, that is the structural organization in animals. So chapter number 7 is about animals, chapter number 6 is about plants, but it is the anatomy of the plant. Chapter number 5 is about morphology of the plants. So in this unit 2nd we will study the structural organization, how the organisms, particularly plants and animals, they are organized in their structures, how externally they look, how internally they are. So all this stuff will be studied in the unit number 2nd. That unit is called as structural organization in plants and animals. Okay, so that is all about the unit number 2nd. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and if you like this lecture series, please subscribe to this channel and forward to the needy students, the NEET aspirants. This content is completely free in nature, and it will be very helpful for the people who are in need, who are in urgent need it. So my request to share as much as you can, and you also get benefited from that. For any doubts or any kind of inquiry, the about me section is there on YouTube channel, where you can post, you can mail me, okay, any kind of difficulty. So thank you for the patient listening. Thank you very much.